I worked 80 hours a week for 10 years building my father's restaurant empire from the ground up. Then my brother came home with an MBA, and my father made him CEO. Me? I got handed a mop and told to prepare for marriage. I walked out that day and never looked back. 3 years later, I got a call. Karma came calling. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how I lost everything and took it all back. I was 18 when I started working in my father's restaurants. Started at the bottom, washing dishes in the back of the flagship location. My father, Robert Mitchell, had built something incredible. 5 restaurants across the state, each one known for quality and consistency. He always said the business would go to whoever earned it. I believed him. So I worked 80-hour weeks every single week for 10 years. I learned every position. Dishwasher, hostess, server, line cook, sous chef, manager, regional operations. I missed birthdays, gave up my social life, never had time to date. My entire 20s disappeared into those kitchens, but I did not mind because I was building something. I created new menu items that became bestsellers. I implemented cost-saving measures that increased profit margins. I built relationships with suppliers and trained staff who actually stayed because they loved working there. Revenue grew 40% under my management. The employees respected me. The customers loved us. I thought I was being groomed for CEO. I thought I had earned it. Then my younger brother Jason came home. He had been studying abroad for 10 years, MBA from some prestigious European school that my father paid for in full. Jason never worked a day in the restaurants. He was too good for manual labor, too smart for getting his hands dirty. He spent a decade partying and traveling and finding himself on Dad's money. Then he came back engaged to Claire, whose father owned half the commercial real estate downtown. My father was thrilled. Finally, he said, Jason was ready to take his place in the family business. I felt uneasy, but told myself there was room for both of us. We were family. We would run it together. Then came the family dinner. My father stood, raised his glass and announced that Jason would be taking over as CEO effective immediately. My fork clattered onto my plate. Jason just smirked. My mother squeezed my hand under the table but said nothing. She never did. The next morning, I walked into the main restaurant expecting to discuss my new role. My father called me into his office with Jason present. Sarah, he said, you will be regional supervisor with special focus on cleanliness standards. I stared at him. What does that mean exactly? He slid a paper across the desk. The job description was basically a glorified janitorial manager. Checking bathrooms, making sure floors were mopped, managing cleaning supplies. I have worked 80 hours a week for 10 years, I said. I know every part of this business. My father leaned back in his chair. And you have done a wonderful job. But Jason has the education, the connections. I felt something break inside me. I have the experience. I built half of what we have. His face hardened. You are a woman, Sarah. I gave you a role that suits you. The words hit like a physical blow. This should help you prepare for marriage, he continued. Learn to manage a household. Jason was scrolling through his phone like this conversation bored him. I looked at my father, the man I had idolized, the man I had sacrificed everything for. You never intended to give me this company. He met my eyes without shame. I intended to give it to my son. As it should be. I walked out of that office in a daze. Employees asked if I was okay, but I could not answer. I went home, stared at the walls of my apartment, and saw 10 years of sacrifice staring back at me. All the missed opportunities, the failed relationships, my entire 20s gone. All for a father who saw me as a housekeeper. That night, I wrote a 2-sentence resignation letter. Effective immediately, I resign. Good luck. I sent it at 11 in the evening. My father called within minutes. I did not answer. Jason texted asking if I was really going to throw a tantrum. I blocked them both. For the next week, my phone exploded with family members begging me to come back. My mother said they needed me. Cousins and aunts and uncles told me not to be dramatic, that family was everything. I ignored them all. I spent 2 weeks grieving, then I got to work. I used my savings and industry contacts to start consulting for other restaurants. My reputation was solid. People knew my work. Within 6 months, I was making good money. But I was also watching my father's company from a distance. Jason's decisions were catastrophic. He changed suppliers to cheaper options, and quality dropped immediately. He fired veteran staff to cut costs, and service suffered. He implemented innovative concepts that flopped spectacularly. Reviews went from 4.5 stars to 3 stars across all locations. Then I started hearing the rumors. Jason had a gambling problem, casinos, online poker, sports betting. He was using company funds to cover his losses. 2 years after I left, the head chef called me. "Sarah," he said, "you need to know something. We have not been paid in 3 weeks. Jason emptied the operating accounts. The company is going under." I thanked him and hung up. Then I smiled for the first time in months. I had been building capital, making connections, and waiting. And now, finally, my moment had arrived. 3 years after I walked out, my father's empire was dying. Revenue down 60%, 3 of 5 locations operating at a loss, health code violations piling up. Staff turnover hit 80% because no one wanted to work there anymore. Jason's gambling addiction was public knowledge now. He had borrowed money from family members and never paid it back. His wife Claire filed for divorce after he gambled away their house down payment. My father finally saw what I had seen years ago. Jason was incompetent and destructive. But it was too late. The company owed $2.3 million to suppliers, banks, and landlords. The assets were worth maybe $1.5 million if they were lucky. They filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, complete liquidation. Everything would be sold at auction. What my family did not know was that I had been thriving. My consulting business had expanded into ownership. 18 months after leaving, I bought my first struggling restaurant and turned it profitable in 6 months. Then I bought 2 more. All 3 were succeeding beyond projections. I had been quietly building capital, learning from my father's mistakes, and improving on everything he taught me. My business model focused on quality, staff retention, and community relationships. Everything he had done right, minus everything he had done wrong. And I had been monitoring the bankruptcy proceedings. I knew exactly when the auction would be, what the assets were worth, and what I needed to do. The liquidation auction was held in a hotel conference room. I arrived in a business suit with a cashier's check in my briefcase. My father was there, looking 10 years older and completely defeated. Jason was there too, desperate, pleading with potential buyers not to lowball. My mother sat in the corner crying quietly. Various cousins and family members filled the other seats. A few industry competitors showed up, smelling opportunity. The auctioneer began. 5 restaurant properties, all equipment, trademarks, and proprietary recipes. Starting bid, $500,000, a fraction of the real value. A competitor bid $500,000 immediately. I raised my hand. $600,000. My father's head snapped up. He recognized my voice. Jason stared at me in disbelief. "Sarah? What are you doing here?" I ignored him, kept my eyes on the auctioneer. The competitor bid $650. I countered with $700. Back and forth, the price climbed slowly. At $800,000, the competitor dropped out. Not worth the trouble for restaurants in this condition. "Going once," the auctioneer said. "Going twice." Jason jumped to his feet. "Wait. You cannot let her have it." The auctioneer frowned. "Sir, sit down or I will have you removed." My father stood up. "Sarah, please. We can work something out. Family means something." I looked at him for the first time. "Family? You mean the family that gave me a mop?" Jason's face turned red. "You are really going to do this? Kick us when we are down?" I finally met his eyes. "I am buying what you destroyed. Be grateful I am buying it at all." My cousin Michael stood up from the back. "You cannot do this. This is our legacy." I turned to face him. "Your legacy? Which restaurant did you work at, Michael?" "Oh, right. None. His face flushed and he sat down. I looked at the auctioneer. Can we proceed? Jason tried one more time, voice breaking. Dad will never forgive you for this. I looked at my father calmly. He never valued me in the first place. Nothing lost. The auctioneer banged his gavel. Sold to bidder 247 for $800,000. I signed the papers and handed over the check. The room fell silent except for my mother's quiet crying. My father approached me as I gathered my things. You have become cold, he said. I met his eyes. No, Dad, I just stopped being your doormat. He shook his head. I built that empire. I zipped my briefcase, and I watched you give it to someone who destroyed it. Now it is mine. Jason blocked my path as I walked toward the exit. What are you going to do with it? I stepped around him. Whatever I want. It is not your concern anymore. My mother touched my arm gently. Please, sweetheart, can we talk? I removed her hand carefully. There is nothing to say, Mom. You stood by and watched. Her eyes filled with tears, but I kept walking. I walked out of that auction owning everything my father had built and everything my brother had destroyed. The empire that rejected me was now mine completely. As I drove away, my phone rang. It was my lawyer. Sarah, she said, your father and brother are trying to contest the sale. They are claiming undue influence. I smiled. They had no idea what was coming next. My father and Jason filed an emergency motion to block the sale. They claimed I had insider knowledge that gave me an unfair advantage, claimed emotional manipulation and family exploitation. The emergency hearing was scheduled for 1 week later. My lawyer was confident. They have no case, she said. Public auction, legitimate funds, proper procedure. But I wanted to be thorough. I prepared documentation showing my entire financial history since leaving. Showed how I built my capital legitimately through my own businesses. Showed I attended the auction as a public bidder with no special access. The hearing arrived and I sat calmly while my father's lawyer argued that I used family information to gain advantage. My lawyer countered that I attended a public auction with legally obtained funds like any other bidder. The judge looked at me directly. Did you use any proprietary information, Ms. Mitchell? No, Your Honor. I used public bankruptcy filings available to anyone. He asked about my relationship to the defendants. I worked for the company for 10 years. I resigned 3 years ago. We are estranged. My father's lawyer stood up, voice rising. She is doing this out of spite. The judge looked unimpressed. Spite is not illegal. Having capital when others do not is not illegal. He banged his gavel. The sale is valid. Ms. Mitchell is the legal owner. Case dismissed. Jason erupted. This is bullshit. She stole our family business. The judge's expression hardened. Sir, she bought what you bankrupted. There is a difference. The bailiff escorted Jason out while he shouted threats nobody took seriously. Outside the courthouse, family members surrounded me, cousins demanding I do the right thing and give back the restaurants. Aunts and uncles claiming I was destroying the family. My father stood silent and defeated. I looked at all of them. For 10 years, I gave everything to those restaurants. I missed weddings, funerals, my entire 20s, and I was told I was just a woman. My mother stepped forward. We made a mistake. Please, forgive us. I met her eyes. Forgiveness does not mean giving back what I earned. I turned to Jason. You had every advantage. Education, connections, a clear path, and you gambled it all away. He had nothing to say. I looked at my father one last time. I am not the villain here. I am the only one who actually valued what you built. I walked to my car. My father called after me. What are you going to do with my restaurants? I turned back. Make them what they should have been all along. 6 months later, I had reopened all 5 locations. I brought back the veteran staff with raises and profit sharing, returned to the original suppliers and restored the quality that made us famous. Reviews climbed back to 4.8 stars. Revenue exceeded even the original Empire's peak. I renamed the company Mitchell and Daughter Restaurant Group. The daughter part was deliberate. A message. Industry articles started featuring me. How Sarah Mitchell saved a legacy. My 3 original restaurants continued thriving alongside the 5 I had rescued. 8 successful locations. 7 million in annual revenue. I had built something bigger than my father ever imagined. I sat in the office of the flagship restaurant, the same office where my father told me I was just a woman. A photo hung on the wall showing my grandfather opening the first location in 1982. My phone buzzed. My father requesting a meeting. I considered ignoring it, then responded. Flagship restaurant, 2 tomorrow. He arrived looking nervous, older somehow. I did not stand or offer coffee. The restaurants look incredible, he said. You have done what I could not. What do you want, Dad? He hesitated. I want to apologize. I was wrong about everything. I nodded. You were. Silence stretched between us. Is there any way I could be involved? Consulting, maybe? I considered this carefully. No. You had your chance. You chose wrong. He nodded slowly and stood to leave. At the door, he turned. Your mother misses you. I felt something tighten in my chest. I miss her too. But not enough to forget. He left without another word. I turned to the window overlooking the dining room. It was packed with happy customers and efficient staff. The hum of success filled the air. I built this, saved this, earned this. My empire now, on my terms. My father thought being a woman made me weak. Thought I should be grateful for scraps. He gave his empire to my brother and watched him destroy it. Now I own everything he built, and I have made it better than he ever imagined. Some people say I should forgive him. Maybe someday, but not today. Today I am too busy running my empire. Thanks for listening to the end. If you believe in earning what is yours and proving the doubters wrong, do not forget to like and subscribe for more stories of betrayal, justice, and sweet revenge.